Hello, welcome to Judy, the YouTube Lawyer's live stream show. Happy Lunar New Year if you celebrated that, and happy early Valentine's Day. So I appreciate everybody who made it to today's live stream. And today's interesting topic is going to focus on all about prenups. So if you have any questions in general, feel free to put them in the comment box. Although the disclaimer is that I'm only licensed in North Carolina. Nothing here is to be construed as legal advice per se. This is primarily for entertainment purposes and very general informational purposes. So let's get started here. The first thing I would like to show is this 2005 hit song that a lot of people may have heard of called Gold Digger by Kanye West. And this is probably the first ever song and the only ever song that I've ever heard of regarding prenuptial agreements and family law. Although I do think like ages ago, there was a Tammy Wynette song about divorce, but you know, I think most people have heard of Gold Digger as opposed to the divorce song. So let's take a look here. Hey, Dr. Seth, thank you so much for being here today. Hope you find this informative, if not kind of funny. I was going to start out by singing the song because I can't play the song due to copyright reasons, but I think you would probably end up cracking up if I tried to sing like Jamie Foxx. So let's see here. Share the screen, and we will take a look at the lyrics of the famous song called Gold Digger. If there's a way that I can share my screen. So basically it's all about, you know, a woman who's a gold digger and just wants the guy for his money and then uses him. And you're supposed to feel sorry for the singers because they're being used and paying for the ladies' kids and everything. But I don't know how often that really works in the real world though. Oh, and it just so happens that there's going to be an ad here. So it goes something like, she'd take my money when I'm in need. She's a trifling friend indeed. Oh, she's a gold digger way over town that digs on me. Okay, so wonderful lyric writing here. And then it kind of goes on, but I think the legally interesting points, well, there's actually several, but I'm going to try to scroll over here to the lyric that I would like to comment on. Okay. So he goes, 18 years, 18 years, she got one of your kids, got you for 18 years. Okay, but in some states, it's actually up to 21 years. So here in North Carolina, a parent is responsible for the support of the child for up to 18 years or whenever the child graduates from high school, whichever is later. And the kid has to be making some sort of like active progress towards getting that high school diploma. Because every so often you hear about some kids who, you know, they drop out of high school, then they go back again, or they're going to community college and taking forever to get their GED or something. So in general, the parent is going to be stuck, you know, paying for the kid up until age 21 if the kid is still working on that GED. So there are some situations also, like if the child has a disability, where the parent could very well end up having to pay child support past 18 years. So some states have the parent, you know, paying for several years after that. So every state has different child support laws there. Then it goes on and says, I know somebody paying child support for one of his kids. His baby mama's car and crib is bigger than his. Well, you know, I mean, that doesn't really make me feel that sorry for the guy, you know, this like fictitious guy singing the song of, you know, oh no, baby mama's car and crib is bigger than his, because you don't know what her situation is. So you're going to be stuck paying some child support. Of course, it's based on the other parent's income too, but maybe the baby mama, you know, got an inheritance, or maybe baby mama found another richer man that is, buying her stuff or giving her the car or whatever. So just because, baby mama's car and the house she's living in is better than his, that doesn't necessarily make me feel so sorry for the guy, because the guy still has to pay some child support for his children. Of course, that differs depending on what kind of child custody arrangement you also have. And there are some cases, I mentioned this in the other live stream about figure skating expenses and sports and child support, where if one person is getting a lot of extra things, like from a new spouse or from a boyfriend, then sometimes you could ask the court to impute income to the person for child support purposes and say that, look, even though she's claiming she only makes like $15 an hour working at this place, her income is actually greater, because gross income could potentially include these extra gifts or things that the sugar daddy is paying for, like if she's getting free housing by living with the boyfriend, or if her parents are constantly giving her on a regular basis financial support and gifts, then that could also be counted as income for child support purposes. So let's go on further. Let me see if there are any comments here. Oh, thanks. I need a laugh about now. Just wrapped up my third and last Zoom meeting, all zoomed out. Okay, so you want me to sing for you? That's okay. So it starts out, okay, because hardly anybody is actually watching this live stream, so this is your special treat here. I am going to sing a cappella for you, Dr. Seb, and I hope you appreciate this silliness. Okay, it goes, is it either she take my money or she give me money? Because the lyrics were kind of different depending on which YouTube video I saw, but I think it's take my money. Yeah, she take my money when I'm in need. Yes, she's a trifling friend indeed. Oh, she's a gold digger way over town. The dig's on me. Okay, so I don't know if you know the actual song, but did I do a good enough job? I tried. This is your Sunday after or Saturday afternoon special, because you are one of the few people tuning in live. Feel free to make some other requests. So let's get back to legal analysis of the gold digger lyrics here. So what's the next verse? Okay, baby mama's car and crib is bigger than his. Okay, so I'm playing it now. Okay, it says, you will see him on TV any given Sunday, win the Super Bowl, and drive off in a Hyundai. So once again, okay, are we supposed to feel sorry for this guy because he has to drive a Hyundai? Actually, I once drove a Hyundai Sonata when my car got hit, and I got a rental car, a Sonata. And actually, I was really impressed. Some of those Hyundais are actually really good quality. So there's nothing wrong with living below your means and driving a Hyundai, because a lot of times people driving fancy cars, that normally is a sign that they are bad financially and they probably are in debt and they just want to show off by having a car that looks really fancy to impress people, but really they're broke, or maybe they're underwater or something. So just driving a fancy car is nothing to be ashamed of, even if you win the Super Bowl. Okay, then the lyric goes, she was supposed to buy your shorty Tyco with your money. She went to the doctor, got lipo with your money. Okay, so this brings to mind one time I was the attorney of the day defending deadbeat parents. Usually it was the dad in child support enforcement court many years ago, more than 10 years ago, when I used to do child support enforcement work just to make some extra money. And so I had this guy that was assigned to be my client, and he was all mad because he wanted to know where the money was going. And he kept saying that to me, and he just went ahead and told the judge straight up when we were in front of the judge. He was like, well, I want to know what she's doing with the money, because I don't know. I think she's just like, and she's not spending the money on my kids. So I want to know where the money's going. So the judge, who was a woman judge, got mad at him and kind of half yelled at him and said, hey, I don't go into your house and ask you how you're spending your money, so you don't get to ask her how she's spending the child support money. So it's just assumed that the parent has to pay child support to the other parent, and there is not going to be any accounting for that. The judge or the court is not going to get involved and start nitpicking and saying, oh, you paid for liposuction. Well, how do you know the liposuction was actually paid for with the child support per se? like maybe it was also with her earnings or something. So unfortunately, there's no way, I don't know if I should say unfortunately, there's no way to like monitor how the recipient of child support money is spending the money. So sorry about that. So what else goes on with this song here? I wonder if there's ever been any sort of law review article written about gold digger. Okay. Okay, so here we go again. Okay, she walking around looking like Michael with your money. Should have got that insured, got Geico for your money. If you ain't no punk, holler, we want prenup, we want prenup, yeah. Okay, so this I find kind of ironic because I was looking at the statistics about differences in earnings for African-American men and women. And the latest statistics that I saw, it still shows that Black men still make a tiny bit more compared to Black women of similar educational background. But in general, women in general in the US have been really gaining on men in terms of educational attainment. So now women actually get more than half of all of the college degrees awarded. And for Black men versus Black women, Black women actually earn about 64% of all the college degrees awarded compared to Black men. And so, it is kind of like growing this like gap. So it is kind of funny that in this song, he is asking or kind of like making it a rallying cry that the men want prenups. Well, nowadays I'm seeing more and more women that tell me they should have gotten a prenup because they're mad when they get divorced and it turns out they made more than their husbands. So we're starting to see a turn of the tides. Granted, this song came out in 2005. So things have been changing a lot in the last 16 years. So the prenup is not really anything that men really in general should be rallying around nowadays, even though in general, men still make slightly more than women. But in terms of educational attainment, that gap is growing. So let's see here. Oh, okay, thank you. I own a Hyundai Santa Fe. They're not cheap, over 30,000. Wow, okay. I didn't know Hyundai Santa Fe's were that expensive. Yeah, I just drive my used Toyota Corolla, which I bought used at CarMax for no more than $15,000 in cash. So I'm very proud of my Toyota Corollas because I've had several and they always last a long time, low maintenance costs and everything. Yeah, so we'll throw in some personal finance tips here along with talking about prenups. So yeah, so that's what I find kind of funny, that this is supposed to be some rallying song for men, but in general, the prenup might not be really something that they want anymore. Okay, so let's look at this next lyric. It goes, it's something that you need to have because when she leave your ass, she gonna leave with half. 18 years, and on her 18th birthday, he found out it wasn't his. Okay, well, okay. That's where it is kind of, it is sort of true that in general, at least where I practice, the marital estate is normally going to be split in half. And the marital estate is what is accumulated from the time that you get married up until the date of separation. So this is where sometimes people do have big battles because now with people getting older by the time they get married, that means that most people do have their own separate assets or they already had some money in their accounts at the time when they got married. So then you kind of need to go backwards and get these really old financial statements and figure out, well, how much money did you really have in the 401k or the IRA when you guys got married versus, what was accumulated during the marriage, okay? So then the thing about, finding out the kid wasn't his, on the kid's 18th birthday, well, that hardly ever happens. That's kind of like a ludicrous lyric, but hey, I know he just needed to write something that sort of, sounds good and has the right number of syllables or something. But yeah, that's very rarely happens because what I see in real life is that normally if the man has any doubt that the kid is his, then as soon as he gets served with notice of a child support case, then the father is definitely going to say, well, I want a paternity test. And you do have the right to request that. And not only do you have the right to legally request a paternity test, I've heard that there are these like do-it-yourself paternity kits that you can buy, maybe even from the drugstore or Walmart or something. where you just get some saliva, or it's very easy. It's not going to hold up in a court of law, but if you have any doubt that the kid isn't yours, I mean, you can certainly, next time you have visitation, try to do this do-it-yourself paternity kit on yourself and the child, and then send off the samples to the lab, and then you'll probably get the results in the mail or maybe even on the internet. Okay, look. So I Googled the do-it-yourself paternity test, and there's actually many, many different options here where you can just pay about $100 and find find out if that kid really is yours or not. So let's take a look at, look at all this stuff. See, I've never had to actually deal with a case where paternity was at issue, although I have had some, what do you call it? You have these like legitimacy proceedings where, like, let's say the man was never actually legally put as the father on the child's birth certificate, and then later he's like, I know that's my kid, so I want to be declared as the father of the child so I can bring a custody case. And then I've had other cases where, like, some, let's say, for example, a woman was legally still married to her husband when they separated, and then she gets pregnant with another man, and they all know that the kid is really the boyfriend's kid, but for some reason, either the husband's name wound up on the birth certificate or there was no father put on the birth certificate. So then the proper legal procedure, at least here in North Carolina, is to have a legitimacy proceedings, which is done through the special proceedings clerk's office. It's not even in front of a judge, it's in front of someone that works for the court system, and it's pretty private and a relatively simple procedure as long as nobody's objecting to the legitimacy of the child. So here, look at all the options here. There's like a home paternity DNA test for $99, another easy DNA home paternity test, $119. Oh, what is this? This is really cheap. It says Reveal DNA paternity test collection kit. I wonder why that's so cheap. It's only $24.99. So see, I'm not sure if this stuff was so readily available back in 2005 when Gold Digger came out, but just in case anybody out there really wants to know, look how cheap it is to establish paternity, or at least figure it out yourself. As stated, it might not really hold up in court because this is just something that you do yourself, I guess through the mail. Yeah, Reveal DNA paternity test collection kit. Includes 3 buccal, is that how you pronounce it? buccal cheek swabs for each, for the alleged father, the child, and the biological mother. Her testing is optional. 2 swabs are to be used with each testing. A 3rd swab is extra. Okay, wow, this is interesting. Yeah, because I never really had to do this research. So everybody know out there, that is not going to happen to you like in Kanye West's song, where for 18 years the guy is paying child support and then he doesn't even know that it's really his kid. So, hey, Audrey, thank you for being here. Okay. Okay. So Black women are more educated but are paid less in every group except Hispanic women, much less in some cases. Yes, and that's just very sad and very unfair, and we definitely need more. I don't know. I mean, sometimes litigation is the answer, or intervention, like the EEOC investigating places who practice this kind of disparate wage disparity. Yeah, thank you for being here also, Audrey. I hope this is so maybe, Audrey, can you tell us how to pronounce buccal or buckle, which means the cheek, for the cheek swabs for the DNA paternity test. So yeah, please check out Audrey's wonderful growing YouTube channel, as well as Dr. Seb's financial channel and YPP Mentor. Thank you, Lindsay. Thanks for being here. I hope this is somewhat entertaining. You missed the serenade where I tried to sing like Jamie Foxx. So, okay, so I think that's pretty much it for the analysis of this Gold Digger song, because the rest of it is just kind of repetitive and stuff. But I just found from a legal perspective that it was interesting to remark about this former hit song about paternity and prenups and everything. So let's move on, shall we, to the stuff about the divorce or impending divorce between Kanye West and Kim Kardashian. So I'm not sure how many people actually keep up with this, but apparently there are some people that loved watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians and really, eat up all this celebrity drama and stuff. So this is one of many articles that I found online about. Here's how Kim Kardashian and Kanye West may split their assets according to their prenup. Okay, this is from stylecaster.com. Okay, so they separated. This was all in the news, I guess, around January of this year. They want to know if they have a prenup for their divorce. Based on all the articles I read, it sounds like they do have a prenup, and that's not surprising because usually the richer people are, the more likely they should have a prenup, especially with celebrity marriages, which tend to usually go up in flames. So the news broke on Tuesday, January 5th, that Kim and Kanye were headed towards a divorce after 6 years of marriage. They married in 2014. They have four children. Yeah, see, I didn't even know they had 4 kids. I knew about the first 2, but they have North, Chicago, Saint, and Psalm, who was only 1 year old. So that's pretty sad. Kim has hired a divorce lawyer, according to a source. They're keeping it low key. What are the settlements going to be like? So according to a 2014 report by Radar Online, they signed a prenup 2 months before they got married in Italy. And supposedly, Kim is supposed to receive $1 million for every year she's married to Kanye, with a cap of $10 million. So if this report is correct, Kim would get $6 million. And they also don't have a custody clause for their kids in the event of a divorce. But that's normal. So I don't know what it's like in other states like California. But in general, from what I know, and in the state where I practice, which is North Carolina, you can't go ahead and discuss custody and child support in a prenuptial agreement. The prenuptial agreement is only for what you're going to do in terms of finances, like alimony or equitable distribution, because it's technically, like, I guess it's viewed as void against public policy. It's just a bad idea when you don't even have the kids yet to just go ahead and say that if we divorce, then the mom gets the kids, or if we divorce, then we're going to split 50-50. It doesn't make sense to put in a prenup, or you're not allowed to put in a prenup, anything about what your future child custody or child support is going to be. Plus, as we've seen in this Kanye West and Kim Kardashian marriage, people's economic circumstances can totally change while they're married. So why would you want to go ahead and agree to child support anyway, even if that were allowed? Because you have no idea how much each person is really going to be making, or how much money you're going to have, if any, at the time that you split up. So that's nothing out of the ordinary that if they did have a prenup, that it wouldn't have a custody clause. So the thing about getting $1 million for every year she's married, well, this is where the articles I've read say that actually, when they got married, Kanye had a ton more money, or a lot more money than Kim. But that has also changed since they got married, because Kim, in addition to being a reality star and getting lots of money from that, she's also established a big cosmetics business, which I'm really impressed about, because I didn't even know much about her doing any sort of makeup business. So I looked at her website, the company's website, and it looks like they have a lot of really great products that are expensive too. Like one tube of lipstick is $18. And there were some eyeshadow kits for well over $100, these kits that they sell and stuff. So so in a way it does seem, some people might think well, that's unfair that now she's going to get $6 million from him, $1 million for every year that she's married to him, when she's actually been making more money, possibly more money than him. I'm still not sure what the net worth of each one of them really is, because the articles that I read, they even said that it was hard to figure out what his net worth was, although Kanye was saying that he should be on the Forbes billionaire list, but it's uncertain exactly how much money he gets from his deal with Adidas, with his sneakers. So so if the prenup did say that she's supposed to get $1 million for every year, then I'm sure that is not going to be anything that can be changed, because the plain English language, if it does say wife is going to get X number of dollars for every year that she's married to the person, then that is what is supposed to happen. You can't just try to void a contract by saying, oh, well, but wait a second, now she's actually making more money than he is, so he should be able to get out of it. Well, that was already a circumstance that was already within the contemplation of the parties. They should have already thought about that situation when they were drafting up and negotiating the contract to start with. So I wouldn't necessarily say that, oh, well then, you know, he can back out the contract now. Nope. You know, normally the contract is going to get enforced. So it says here, let's see, there's a picture of them together, nice shiny pants there. That looks really uncomfortable. Radar Online also reported that one of Kanye's life insurance policies is worth $20 million and that Kim will remain as a beneficiary of the policy for life, even if she and Kanye divorce. Okay, well, I mean, that's interesting that they would put that in the prenup before they even had kids, but, you know, again, that's something that she and her attorney bargained for and negotiated. Yeah, that's interesting because I've never been involved in a prenuptial agreement where life insurance was also part of the promise to say that, okay, the husband agrees to have a life insurance policy of this much, and then the wife is going to be a beneficiary of it for life. Yeah, so that's actually a pretty good deal that she got, or she and her attorney managed to negotiate, you know, because if that's true, you know, even divorcing him, he still has to keep a life insurance policy that she could get, you know, $20 million from. Wow. Okay. At the time of the report, Kanye was worth $100 million, while Kim had a net worth of $40 million. However, things have changed over the years. As of 2020, Kim is worth $780 million. Wow. After she sold 20% of her cosmetics company, KK Beauty, and her perfume brand to Coty. Wow, that's amazing. As for Kanye, Forbes reported in 2020 that Kanye still makes more than Kim with a $1.3 billion net worth, which is $300 million more than Kim's younger sister, Kylie. Wow, okay, these people have just so much money to throw around. I'm sure, like, if they really wanted to sue each other, they would be happy to throw more money at attorneys, right? Let's see. So, and it says, allegedly, according to page 6, Kim will be able to keep any gifts that Kanye gave her during the marriage. Yeah, that makes sense. You know, that's typical too, that any gifts given to each other during the marriage would just stay that person's gift anyway. Except, of course, they were giving each other like $5 million worth of art, $4 million in cars, and $3.2 million in jewelry, according to Forbes. Yeah. Yeah, it could be a gigantic pain in the neck to figure out what you're doing, says a Beverly Hills lawyer. Yeah, because it is true that, you know, once you have a prenup, then that does kind of create more pressure on the parties to keep good records, because how are you supposed to argue later on that this thing was a gift from me to the husband, you know, as opposed to, oh, this was a joint gift that my parents gave to both of us. So I've seen that in some divorce battles where somebody claims that this furniture was a gift to us as a couple from my parents, whereas the other person saying, no, that was a gift from my parents to me, so he doesn't get half of the value. So yeah, I mean, there's always still that opportunity for more, you know, battles, even when you have a prenup, depending on how well written the prenup is. So that's why when you're drafting a prenup as an attorney, you do have to be like totally like, quote, anal retentive and think of the worst case scenario every time you have a provision, like, but what if this happens? But what if that happens, you know? And then it's kind of up to the parties themselves to be sure that they keep detailed records. You know, like if the husband gives the wife like a gift, then wouldn't it be nice to have some pictures or some witnesses or some text or a card, you know, saying, you know, this ring is just for you, baby. You know, this ring is all for you, or this dining room table was for you, not for the family. So yeah, it has the opportunity to become kind of crazy that way when people split up and they start arguing over whether something was really a gift or not. Yeah. So yeah. And of course, the insider claims that all the Radar Online information is wrong. Whether or not Kim and Kanye have a prenup is a private matter, and any speculation is just that. Yeah, so you do wonder, you know, how would Radar Online or any sort of media outlet get details about somebody's prenuptial agreement? Because the attorneys have to obviously keep everything confidential. The attorney and the attorney's staff cannot just like go out and start blabbing to some, you know, some paparazzi type of rag and saying like, oh yeah, you know, I saw that prenup and I was the one working on it and let me tell you what it said. You know, that would be totally unethical and could get the person disbarred. So you can't, I mean, how would they really find out? I would just say, you know, maybe Kim or Kanye, you know, they could have told one of their friends or a relative who then told another friend of a friend, and then that friend of a friend, you know, decides to sell the information that they gleaned, you know, to the media. So otherwise, it usually is pretty rare that any prenup information would be leaked out, So that's why if you have a prenup, then, if you're a celebrity or a famous person, then you definitely need to be cautious yourself as to who you talk to about the details of your prenuptial agreement. Yeah. So let's see. So they're in settlement talks about how to divide their California mansion. They bought the home for $40 million before spending another $20 million in renovations. This says that Kim wants the house because that's where the kids have grown up. Yeah. Oh, well, this is interesting. She owns all the land and adjoining lots around the house, but Kanye owns the actual house. They both put a lot of money into renovating it. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, that definitely complicates things if one person owns the home, but the other person owns all the land and the adjoining lots. Well, once again, you would look to the language of your prenuptial agreement to address, what happens to any marital home or anything that is jointly titled. In a lot of prenups, people would say that anything that is jointly titled would be sold with the proceeds split 50-50, or, if they can agree that one person is going to buy out the other person's share, then they would get the home appraised, and then, the other person leaving would get paid out for half the equity in the home. So there are definitely different ways that you can treat, what's going to happen to a marital residence that could be owned jointly. So anyway, hope that was somewhat interesting, especially if you care about Kanye West and Kim Kardashian. Let me switch back over here. Your voice is a bit off. Oh no, sounds like I'm underwater. That's weird. Well, let me try to unplug this. Okay. Well, it looks like my microphone is plugged in okay. If any of you guys can tell me, is this really bad? Well, I'm also in my office, which has a little bit of an echo based on the high ceilings and the walls and stuff. So it could be because I'm in the office today instead of at my home office, which has carpeting, lots more carpeting and, is better insulated and everything. But hopefully you guys can still hear me, right? Okay. Oh, hi, Christy. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you being here. So if anybody has any questions about prenuptial agreements, feel free to drop it there. Oh, thanks, Dr. Seb. Okay. Yeah, because at least I knew you could hear my terrible singing, right? Okay, thank you guys for being here. So that's what I have to say about the Kim Kardashian and Kanye West possible prenup, because once again, whoever is speaking on their behalf, probably their publicist, is denying that those are the actual details of the prenup. But normally people get prenups if it is the second or later marriage for at least one of the people. If one person already got screwed over through the court system in their first divorce, then it makes sense that you would be on guard and a lot smarter the second time around or the third time, fourth time around, to get a prenup to make sure that there's not a huge court battle. Because even if your financial situations don't really change during the marriage, you could still wind up with a really crummy, horrible court battle. And I have been involved in those cases as a divorce attorney for more than 20 years. I've seen cases, or I've heard of cases even, where people spent more than $80,000 on attorney's fees just for one side, because they're fighting over every single darn thing. Like the value of different properties, rental properties, things need to be appraised, lots need to be appraised. They can't even agree on anything, or, fighting over sentimental objects, fighting over the kids. Somebody's hiding income, somebody was hiding assets, somebody was constantly, wiring money overseas to hide the money with a parent or a relative. There's just so many things that can make divorce litigation complicated and drag on more than a year or two. So that would be everybody's nightmare, right? You go into marriage all happy and optimistic, right? That's the way it should be. You go in happy, and then you just assume like we're going to be together forever, and we love each other. We're not like that. He's not like that. She's not like that. She says she doesn't want any of my money. Yeah, whatever. All that verbal stuff. When you're in love and you're on your way to the altar, that can totally change, say like 7 to 10 years later. Yeah, there's just like so many circumstances that can come up where people's attitudes change, their personality, the way they treat each other can totally change, you know. So that's why in general it is better to have a prenuptial agreement than to just go in blind and assume like everything's going to be great, we're going to be together forever and ever, we're both kind, mature, you know, loving people, and we would never treat each other that way. Well, especially in this day and age where I wouldn't say that 50% of marriages wind up in divorce, but just based on what I've seen with my friends and relatives and friends of friends and people I know, I would say more like maybe about like 30 to 40% of marriages wind up in divorce. So it definitely makes sense. Like I said, if it's not the first marriage for both people, if there's like a huge disparity in income or expected income between the parties, or if one person, you know, expects to inherit a lot of money from his or her parents or family members, or just because you don't want that headache of potentially having a horrible, terrible court battle. So it, let's say both people are making roughly about the same amount of money, and they don't have any kids. This is the first marriage for both of them. I mean, it's still, you're still kind of rolling the dice to say that, okay, well, we don't need a prenup then because we both make roughly about the same amount of money. The downside to prenups is that oftentimes it is being used to kind of deprive the poor spouse of what they otherwise might be entitled to if they got divorced, because in a lot of states, normally the marital estate is going to be split 50-50. And then if there's one person that is a lot richer than the other person, then they might prefer to say that, well, anything that's titled in my name is always going to be mine and you don't get any of it. Yeah, so that does seem slightly unfair, because on the other hand, you know, especially with women still continuing to make less than men, you know, we're talking about heterosexual marriages here, but you know, you might say that, well, that's kind of mean, because marriage would have been a way to kind of equalize the pay disparity between men and women. And it's usually the woman that ends up having to quit their career or put their career on hold to take care of kids if they're planning on having kids. So that's where it could be seen as kind of unfair to then say like, well, you know, too bad, you know, if we split up, you don't get 50-50, you know, you just leave with whatever you came in with and whatever was titled in your name, haha, you know. So, yeah, but then again, prenups can obviously be tailored to every couple. So they don't all have to say the same boilerplate information. As we saw in the Kardashian-West article, you know, the so-called source said that Kim was supposed to get $1 million for every year that she was married to him. So, you know, you could have a prenup that says, if we split up in 5 years, then there is no alimony. But if we are married for at least 5 years, but split up before whatever, 10 years, 15 years, then the poor spouse gets X amount of dollars in alimony for X number of years, or a lump sum. You know, I usually tell people it's better to just flat out say a lump sum so that there is no ongoing obligation between the parties. You know, lump sum is nice and certain, and you know you got the money, because the person could still die or just run off and disappear. You know, a lot of things can happen. So why would you want to be thinking like, okay, every month I'm going to have to be like begging this person and reminding the person that the person owes me X amount of dollars for 5 years, as opposed to, okay, I got my whatever, I got my $50,000 lump sum. So prenups can definitely be creative or, you know, tweaked depending on whatever the parties want, as long as it's legally enforceable. So that's why you definitely want to get attorneys involved to help you draft it, so that you don't wind up with a useless, you know, ambiguous piece of paper that isn't worth anything. So yeah, thank you for being here, Christy. Yeah, everybody please check out Twins Try, where Christy and her twin sister, lately they've been making a lot of Chinese New Year's foods. So I'm glad that you're here. Thank you. Okay, so in terms of prenups, let me talk some more. So I mentioned like who might need one, and sometimes it is a sad situation though, where you see that clearly the richer person is trying to cut out the poorer person from anything. And that's just really sad, but it kind of depends on how much the poorer person really wants to marry the richer person. So you do see these like sad situations. Usually it's like, say, like a woman from another country who feels like she has no other options and she really wants to get away from her country and stuff, so she's willing to sign something. Yeah, but if one of the parties does not know how to read English or is not 100% fluent in English, then it definitely makes sense to make sure that there is at least an interpreter, if not a bilingual attorney, so that later on, if someone tries to challenge the prenup, they can't say like, well, I didn't understand what was going on. I barely knew how to read English and he knew it. And he just told me, you know, a few days before the wedding that I needed to sign this thing if we wanted to get married. So I signed it, you know. So there are some very, very specific circumstances under which a prenuptial agreement could be overturned and deemed invalid. And I would say would probably have to be in those kinds of situations where one person really didn't understand the legal implications and didn't know how to read English fully and didn't have an attorney or an interpreter. So in terms of the time, though, from what I've read, prenups are still in general going to be enforceable even if you just like brought it out the day of the wedding or day before the wedding, you know, because the other option is always just not go through with the marriage. Then if the person is saying you need to sign this or we're not going to get married, well, you know, there is some duress there, but if both parties, you know, can read and write standard English, that the thing has to be notarized, then I think it's pretty likely that a prenuptial agreement would still be upheld even if it were signed right before the wedding. So let's see. So right now it is 4:53. I don't see any other questions there, but I think we've pretty much covered the topics for today. And if anybody has any other comments or anything, feel free to leave a comment here. And I really do appreciate everybody showing up. I'm getting a little closer and closer to having 1,000 subscribers and the requisite watch time. So it's pretty fun and amazing. I remember the first time I did a live stream here in my office. I don't know, I think I had only had a little over 400 subscribers at that point, and it was just really amazing how much fun doing a live stream was and seeing all the people coming in and out and taking part in it. So thank you guys so much. Hope this was somewhat entertaining and enlightening, and hope you enjoy your Valentine's Day then. Thanks for being here.